so much for joining me today. I'm Colleen Klimczak. I'm an organizational and productivity coach and a certified professional organizer. I own Peace of Mind Professional Organizing, LLC. Since 2003, I've been helping my clients live better lives through organizing and organizational and productivity coaching. I support my clients and my community with coaching, in-person and virtual organizing, my weekly podcast called Your Organized Life with Colleen Klimczak, a free weekly virtual productivity session called Finish Line Friday, a free weekly email newsletter, and regular content on Facebook and Instagram. I also offer presentations and professional development to groups and companies. And coming soon, I'll be launching a membership circle to support my community with even more coaching and productivity content. Want to finish strong this week? Join me for Finish Line Friday every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Central for a 2-hour productivity session. Drop me an email at colleen@peaceofmindpo.com to request my Zoom room link or follow the Zoom room link on my Instagram or Facebook pages. Welcome to Your Organized Life, episode 165. First, I am excited to share a public service announcement. I am partnering with, and actually I feel a little guilty when I say partnering with because they're doing the hosting, but I am partnering with Spoken Vine, a really great wine bar here in Evergreen Park at 95th Street in Kedzie for Admin Night, and I'm putting that in quotation marks. Our first one is next, I won't say next because who knows when you're listening to this, but it is at 6 p.m. on February 3rd. I love the idea of Admin Night. Again, I'll put that in quotes. It is gaining popularity. A recent Wall Street Journal article entitled How to Turn the Bureaucratic Grind of Life into a Party. Right? I love that idea. But that article explains Admin Night as an opportunity to pay your bills, figure out your credit card statements, complete your kids' school forms, unsubscribe from streaming services, or whatever. Okay, the whatever is mine, not the articles. But they do call, the article calls it the quicksand of tiny, dumb administrative tasks. It is the most tedious quicksand imaginable. And we have the solution. So myself and Spoken Vine will be hosting Admin Night. You bring the work, and Spoken Vine will bring a beautiful and welcoming space, Wi-Fi, and their full fabulous menu for purchase. And I will bring the encouraging atmosphere and guided work time using the Pomodoro method, which is a blend of work and breaks to maximize productivity. So again, that first Admin Night is February 3rd at 6 p.m. at Spoken Vine at 95th Street in Kedzie in Evergreen Park. On to this week's topic. If you know me, this may seem an odd thing for me to say here at the end of January, but here it goes. This week, I finally feel that New Year's feeling. I know. As a productivity coach and a certified professional organizer, I have already helped hundreds of people in 2026 to set their goals and clear their clutter and get themselves organized. But as I was busy doing that, I was also feeling some of those same feelings for myself. Like I said, I know it might sound odd, but I still wanted to say it. Here is why I am now finally feeling that New Year feeling this week. So let's look back at the last month. No, actually, let's go even farther back. So I had another basal cell carcinoma successfully removed on October 29th. I'm all healed now. Since I was already required to rest and recover after the procedure, I had what I thought was a brilliant idea to get my flu shot that same week because sometimes I feel crummy for a couple days. And I had, as they would say, a robust immune response to the flu shot and ended up with a fever for 10 days. And then it was back to work for a few days in mid-November, but then it was Thanksgiving week. And there was medical follow-up and college students home from college and travel to Michigan for Thanksgiving with my family, and then more medical follow-up, and then poof, it was December. With December, obviously, came the holidays and work and a lot of music for this liturgical musician. We hosted and attended events. I hosted house guests. My sons were home, and then one went back to school to travel with the Illinois State Marching Band to the FSC Championship with the football team. Yes, he is that cool. But then he came home again, and then he went back to school again, and then he came home again. Do you see where I'm going with this? I mean, phew, right? It's been crazy. In there also, I hosted a shower for 34 people, a baby shower. It was great. And if you're looking for a great restaurant and event location in the south suburbs, I can highly recommend Franklin's Public House in Palos. They were amazing. But now it's January. I have met wonderful people. I have presented many times, hosted the shower I mentioned, and as I write this, we are smack dab in the recovery of a historical snowstorm that impacted much of the country. But only now that the year is underway and I can claim some regularity to my schedule again, do I actually feel my new year starting. What I am doing with my new year feeling this week is working on my routines. And that's what we're talking about today. I finally have the brain space to start implementing the goals that I've set. Because as we know, if we want to achieve big goals, we have to start with our small daily habits. I just talked about PACT goals and SMART goals, right? Based on my goals for 2026, there are a few habits and behaviors that I want to either change or reinforce to increase my chances for success. Thanks for sticking with me. I know that was a long lead up to what I actually want to talk about. Like I said, routines. So far this month, I have talked about goal setting and the productivity support of accountability here on the podcast. Routines are another excellent support for getting things done. Accountability to ourselves and others is deciding what we're going to do and then doing what we said we would do, right? To remind ourselves that we can and to reinforce the commitment by bringing in others for support. But what exactly are we supposed to be doing, right? And that starts with routines. I will be talking about bigger picture productivity like tasks and projects in upcoming episodes and articles, but we are starting with routines. So there's a couple things I want to point out. There is no way that all of those things that I started to talk about, right, from surgery recovery and the fever to the holidays to all the presentations in the last 3 weeks, there's no way that that stuff would have successfully transpired if I didn't already have good routines, fully functioning routines. I tweak my routines regularly to make sure that I have automated the survival and maintenance tasks of my personal and professional life. And more importantly, I bet you have routines as well. And also, for me at least, it's time for an update. And maybe that's the same for you too. For today's purposes, I'm going to talk about personal routines. All of these questions can be applied to the professional setting as well, but I'll stick with examples of personal routines. So on with the show, right? How to do this. Let's get this happening. So first up, we identify, acknowledge, and celebrate what we're already doing. If you want to work on your routines, let's figure out what's already in place. You likely have routines already. Do you get up, get showered, and get dressed most days? See, look at you. Looks like a routine to me. So when I first sit down with a coaching client who wants to increase their productivity or improve their life balance or increase their joy with better routines, we do a time audit of where their time is actually going and what is and is not getting done. If you are not sure where your time is going and what's actually happening or not, track your activity for a few days or a week in 15 or 30-minute increments. If you are sure of all of those things, where it's going and what's getting done, make a list of what you do on any given morning or afternoon or evening or week, right? So we first figure out what it is that we're actually doing. Once we've done that, when we determine where our time is going, we may identify some habits that aren't serving us. For example, I've identified that doom scrolling on my phone after 8 p.m. really messes with my sleep. And therefore, I need to be intentional with my very short list of routine bedtime tasks to interrupt the doom scrolling habit and do the things that will help me take care of me instead. And as I wrote that originally, I also set my 8 p.m. alarm on my phone to remind myself. So we know what's going on. We know that there might be some things that we want to get rid of. And the next step then is to identify what we might want to add in. We can ask, what changes do I need to make to support my goals and what I want to achieve in 2026? And here is the first of, I think, 2 reminders today to not change many habits all at once, because you and I both know making too many changes at once is a recipe for failure. So back to that question, what changes do I need to make to support my goals and what I want to achieve in 2026? As an example, I have some wellness goals for 2026 that I will achieve, and they require eating a better breakfast and also finding time in the morning for exercise and stretching and meditation. All of those activities need to be added to my morning routine. Yep, it is time to adjust. So we've figured out what is, we have figured out what we want to get rid of, we've identified what we might want to add in. So the next question is, when do we perform our routine tasks? And a better question is, when do we want to complete our routine tasks? So I tend to default to morning routines. And I know that that's presumptuous. So if you're still sticking with me, if you haven't tuned me out because morning routines are not your jam, then I totally understand that. Thanks for sticking with me. But as you work on this for yourself, consider your daily highs and lows of energy and motivation. Like I said, I am a morning person, but maybe you're not, and that's fine. Since we're creating routines that work for each of us, we each need to consider when we are most likely to actually complete routine tasks. For me, that is in the morning. I know that about myself, that my focus and energy and motivation are high in the morning. For you, perhaps you're a morning person too, or perhaps you're an afternoon person and you hit your productivity stride after lunch and have motivation and clarity until the evening. Then again, maybe you're a night owl. Maybe you hit your stride when it gets dark outside again and you could stay up for hours because you have your best energy and focus in the evening. Maybe for you, your energy and motivation are inconsistent, so you need to know your handful of essential tasks for the day, and then you fit them in as well as you can. Knowing ourselves and when we work best is helpful as we create routines that work for us. And of course, we can have different routines for different times of day. Sure, I do the bulk of my routine tasks in the morning, but there are a handful that I do at other times as well. So once we've figured out when we want to do our routine tasks, we need to assign realistic time estimates to our routine tasks. Now, I know I've talked about those before. They are very important, especially if we're trying to schedule things. So in addition to the time of day, we need to know how much time our tasks actually take to complete. So let's walk into the time machine here. For example, long ago, before 13 years ago, I had longer hair. For 30 years of my life, I had hair that required time every morning for styling and a hairdryer. My shower and hair routine took at least 30 minutes and more likely closer to 60 if I wasn't just putting everything back in a ponytail. And at the time, that was a necessary piece of information as I planned my day. Obviously, this time estimate has adjusted down with shorter hair, and my overall morning routine has changed as the number of people in my house that I'm responsible for has decreased too. At this point, I really only have to feed myself, pack one lunch, etc., and I am clear on how long those tasks take. Maybe you want to make a smoothie into your morning routine. That is a great and healthy choice, yay you, but how long does it take? Do you have to slice and dice every day? What is the longest and also shortest time that task might take? Get realistic as you work on your routine. Next, look at the time you have to dedicate to your routines and make sure that the time estimates on those combined tasks and your time available match up. I'm going to be transparent here. This week, when I finally sat down to reimagine my routines, my ideas were too ambitious. If I were to add in all the new and better habits that I want, I would need like 3 or 4 hours every morning for just these aspirational routine tasks. And since I often have to leave the house at like 7 or 7:30 in the morning or be on site to teach or for an organizational project, obviously that is not sustainable. Here's another, yet again, reminder for you and me to not change all the habits all at once. So what did I do in this situation? I adjusted my expectations, and I'm going to choose just 1 or 2 new habits to work on for the next few weeks. I can also wait. I would love to, for example, add back in a morning walk in my morning routine, but that can wait until 6 o'clock in the morning is a little brighter and warmer in a few months. I can also look at what habits are actually elapsed time tasks and what I mean by that. So sitting in front of my happy lamp for my boost of vitamin D can happen at the same time that I journal or meditate or read scripture. And then I can also get realistic and assign tasks to good enough times of day instead of just the morning. I would love to get my daily nonfiction reading completed in the morning, which supports that goal of mine to read 12 nonfiction books this year, but it's not going to work. So assigning that task to an evening routine may be a little less consistent than my morning time, but it's still more consistent than never, which is what has been happening. Now that we've figured out all those moving parts, it's time to put our routine tasks in a logical, efficient, and effective order. We can batch our tasks within our routines. If we're talking mornings, perhaps we make our coffee, take our vitamins, make our breakfast, and pack our lunch all at once. If you have time in the evening for routine tasks, perhaps you make your dinner and set up your coffee for the morning, pack your lunch for the next day, and run the dishwasher again all at once. Looking at your tasks, time, and time estimates, put things in an order that makes sense. Another example, I have identified that if I just got up and showered first every day, so many other tasks would just fall into place. But that is not typical, and so that is something I'm also working on hard to change it. And then finally, at least for this week, we track our new routines for a few weeks to celebrate our wins, identify problem areas, and make adjustments. This week, let's look at our routines, what is already happening, and also what we might want to add or delete to make our routines that support us, and our 2026 goals. Support around routines and goals and getting things done is what productivity coaching is all about. If it's time to invest in yourself and explore coaching for organizing and productivity, I would love to hear from you. Drop me a line via email at colleen@peaceofmindpo.com or message me through my social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Thanks so much, and I will talk to you next week.